I took the night shift at the county morgue because it paid better than anything else I could find, and because everyone told me nothing ever happened there after midnight. The building sat low and square behind the hospital like a concrete afterthought. Always quiet, always cold. And the first thing you learn is that quiet has weight. It presses on your ears until you start hearing things that aren't there. The hum of refrigeration units becomes a breath. The ticking clock becomes footsteps, and you learn to ignore it, or you quit. My job was simple on paper. Log arrivals, verify tags, make sure the doors stayed closed, and keep the place clean. No heroics, no surprises. That was the promise. The first few nights were uneventful. Just paperwork and long hours with nothing but the glow of fluorescent lights and the smell of disinfectant. I brought books, podcasts, anything to keep my mind occupied. But there was a rule the supervisor emphasized during training. Never leave a drawer open and never respond to noises you can't explain. She said it like a joke, but her eyes didn't match her smile. On my fourth night, the building felt different, heavier somehow. Like the air had thickened, the lights flickered once and settled, and the clock above the office door had stopped at 1:17. I made a note to report it and went back to my desk. That's when I heard the first sound, a soft metallic click, like a latch being tested. I told myself it was the cooling system cycling, but it happened again, closer this time. I stood in the doorway and listened. The room of steel drawers stretched out in rows, identical and silent. I reminded myself of the rule and went back to my chair. A few minutes later, the click became a slide, slow and careful. The unmistakable sound of metal on metal. I called out to no one. My voice sounded wrong in the room, thin and swallowed by the walls. The sound stopped immediately, which was worse than if it had continued. I sat there counting my breaths until the clock on my phone read 1:18. I remember that because it felt important, like time had restarted without the building's permission. When I finally worked up the nerve to check the room, everything looked normal. Every drawer flush, every tag in place. I laughed at myself and went to make coffee. The break room was small and windowless, the kind of place where minutes stretch. As the machine gurgled, I heard a whisper, not words, just the shape of speech, like someone talking through a wall. I froze with my hand on the counter. The whisper drifted and faded, replaced by a soft knocking from the other side of the room. 3 taps, evenly spaced. I didn't move. The knocking came again, 3 taps. I told myself it was pipes. Old buildings talk. That's what people say when they don't want to think too hard. I finished my coffee and took it back to the desk. My hands were shaking enough that I spilled some on the floor. As I cleaned it up, I noticed wet footprints leading away from the doorway, shallow impressions that stopped halfway down the hall. There was no water source nearby and no one else in the building. I stood there staring until the prints seemed to fade into the polished floor. The rest of the night passed in a tense quiet. No more sounds, no more whispers. And when my shift ended, I convinced myself it had all been nerves. The second week was worse. The noises returned, not every night, just often enough to keep me on edge. A cough from an empty corridor, a sigh behind me when I was alone. Once I heard my name spoken softly from the far end of the room, pronounced perfectly, like someone who knew me well, I started keeping the lights brighter and the radio on low, anything to break the silence. Then came the night the logbook changed. I was reviewing entries when I noticed a name I didn't recognize written in neat block letters, dated for that evening. There was no arrival, no paperwork, just the name and a time. 1:17. My stomach dropped. I checked the security feed. Every camera showed empty halls, no movement, no doors opening. I called the supervisor and got voicemail. I told myself it was a clerical error and crossed the name out. The pen squeaked loudly in the quiet room. When I looked back, the name was there again, darker this time. Pressed deep into the paper, my hands went cold. I closed the book and pushed it away. That's when I heard the drawers opening all at once, not slamming, just sliding open a few inches, one after another, like a wave moving through the room. I backed toward the exit, my heart hammering so hard it hurt. The drawers stopped as suddenly as they had started, leaving the room in a tense half-silence. I don't know how long I stood there before my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number that read, "Please don't leave us alone." I didn't wait for the end of my shift. I ran. I didn't even grab my jacket. I told myself I was done, that no job was worth that. But the next day, the supervisor called and apologized, said there had been a power issue, said stress does funny things, said if I didn't come back, I wouldn't be paid for the week. I needed the money, so I went back. The building welcomed me with that same heavy quiet. The clock was fixed, the lights steady, everything normal, almost cheerful. I tried to believe it. Just after midnight, the radio crackled and died, plunging the room back into silence. I heard footsteps then, slow and measured, stopping just behind me. I could feel the presence like a weight on my shoulders, a cold pressure that made it hard to breathe. A voice spoke close to my ear, calm and patient, saying it had waited a long time to be noticed, saying it didn't like the dark, saying the drawers were too small. I didn't turn around, I didn't answer. I stared at the wall until my eyes burned. The pressure lifted, the footsteps retreated, and the room was empty again. At 1:17, the lights went out. Not completely, just dim enough to turn the shadows long and unfamiliar. Every drawer was closed, except one at the far end, open just enough to catch the light. I knew, without knowing, that it was meant for me, that the name in the book had never been a mistake. I walked out into the night and never went back. I didn't give notice. I didn't ask for my pay. I changed my number and moved apartments. Sometimes I still wake up at 1:17 to the sound of metal sliding and a voice asking me not to leave it alone. And I remind myself that I did the right thing, because some places don't want caretakers. They want company. And once you give it to them, they never let you forget it. I used to think rain was comforting, the kind of sound that helped people sleep, the kind that made the world feel smaller and safer. Like nothing bad could reach you while it was falling, but that belief didn't survive the night. I started noticing that the rain outside my apartment wasn't just noise anymore. It felt like something that listened back. I lived alone on the 3rd floor of an old building, the kind with narrow hallways, buzzing lights, and doors that closed too softly, no matter how hard you shut them every night. I'd come home, make something simple to eat, turn off the overhead lights and let the rain play against the windows while I tried to unwind, and for a long time that routine worked, until one night the rain didn't sound the same. It wasn't louder or heavier, it was just closer, like it had moved in a few inches toward the glass. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding a mug and realizing the rain had stopped everywhere, except directly outside my window. The rest of the street was quiet. No cars, no distant thunder, just my building and that steady tapping. Right where I stood, I pulled the curtain aside, expecting to see someone standing there, or maybe a tree branch scraping the glass. But there was nothing, just darkness and the faint reflection of my own face staring back at me. And that's when I noticed the reflection didn't blink. When I did, I laughed it off, told myself I was tired and went to bed. But the rain followed me. It moved from the kitchen window to the bedroom window, the sound adjusting perfectly to wherever I was standing, and when I lay down it settled into a slow, patient rhythm as if it knew I was trying to sleep that night. I dreamed I was standing in the hallway of my building listening to rain that was falling indoors, dripping from the ceiling, pooling on the carpet while doors lined both sides slightly open, and behind each one I could hear someone breathing. When I woke up, the rain was gone, completely gone. The sky outside was clear, but the hallway outside my apartment smelled damp, like wet concrete and old water. And from that night on, the rain started behaving strangely. Sometimes it would begin only after midnight. Sometimes it would stop the moment I opened a window, and sometimes it wouldn't appear at all, until I turned off the lights as if it preferred the dark weeks past, and I started sleeping with headphones on just to drown it out. But even then I could feel it, a pressure behind my ears, a sensation like someone standing too close just out of view. Then one evening, during a particularly long storm, the power went out. No lights, no hum of appliances, just the rain and my own breathing. And in the darkness, I heard something new. Footsteps slow, careful pacing back and forth in the hallway outside my door. I froze, listening, counting each step as it passed my apartment, and then stopped right in front of it. The rain outside my window stopped too. Everything went silent, except for the sound of someone breathing on the other side of the door. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't even blink. And after a long time, the footsteps continued down the hall, and the rain returned heavier than before, like it was covering up what had just happened the next morning. I found wet footprints outside my door, barefoot impressions that didn't belong to anyone I knew. I reported it to the building manager, who told me I was the only tenant on my floor. The others had moved out months ago because of water damage that never seemed to get fixed. After that, I stopped leaving my apartment at night. I ordered food instead of cooking and kept every light on, but the rain didn't care. It came anyway, tapping patiently against the glass, waiting for me to notice it, and eventually I did. I started hearing patterns in the rainfall, pauses, rhythms, almost like messages, and once you hear something like that, you can't unhear it. One night, I pressed my ear against the window just to see if I was imagining it, and the rain stopped, instantly replaced by a whisper. Not a voice exactly, more like the sound of someone trying to speak through water. I pulled back shaking, and that's when I saw the reflection again, my reflection standing behind me in the dark hallway of my apartment, smiling with its eyes open too, wide. The next day, I packed a bag and left to stay with a friend across town, where it didn't rain for 3 days straight, but on the fourth night, I heard it again, tapping lightly on their window, even though the forecast said clear skies. I didn't tell them what was happening. I just watched the glass as the rain slowly began to fall, only on my side of the room. And I realized then that it wasn't the apartment, it wasn't the building, it was me. The rain hadn't been outside this whole time. It had been following me, waiting patiently, listening, learning, and now no matter where I go, when the night gets quiet enough, I can hear it tapping softly, just close enough to remind me it's still there. The rain always sounded the same at the rest stop that night, steady, gentle, almost relaxing, which made it easier to ignore how empty the place was, the kind of stop that barely showed up on maps, with flickering lights and vending machines humming louder than they should. I'd pulled over because I was too tired to keep driving, and the storm had reduced the road to a narrow tunnel of water and darkness inside my car. The rain wrapped around me like a blanket tapping on the roof, in a rhythm that made my eyes feel heavy. I told myself I'd rest for a few minutes and then get back on the road. But time slipped the way it always does when you're alone and listening. And eventually I realized the rain outside wasn't matching the rain on my windshield anymore. It was slower, more deliberate, like fingers drumming instead of water falling. I looked around the empty parking lot, expecting to see another car, or maybe a person standing under the awning. But there was nothing, just rows of wet pavement reflecting the dim, yellow lights. I locked my doors anyway and leaned my head back, trying to relax. And that's when I heard the knock, 3 soft taps on the passenger side window. I jumped, heart racing, staring at the glass, but there was no one there. Only the rain, which had stopped everywhere else except directly above my car. I rolled the window down just enough to listen, and the sound shifted instantly, becoming louder, closer, as if it had been waiting for permission. I rolled it back up, and the tapping stopped, replaced by the sound of footsteps circling the car, slow, measured steps that splashed through puddles without ever showing a shadow. I stayed perfectly still, watching my breath fog the glass, and then the footsteps stopped behind me right where I couldn't see, and the rain resumed falling normally as if nothing had happened. I drove away immediately, hands Shaking, refusing to look in the mirrors until the rest stop disappeared behind the trees, but the rain followed me all the way home, matching my speed, never letting up, and that night when I finally crawled into bed exhausted, I heard it again, tapping lightly against my bedroom window even though the storm had passed hours ago. There was a house I used to pass on my walk home from work, a narrow place squeezed between two newer buildings, always dark, always quiet. Even when it rained harder than anywhere else, the windows never fogged the yard, never flooded, and sometimes, when I passed it, I could hear rain falling inside. Even when the sky was clear one night, curiosity got the better of me, and I stopped outside listening closely, and that's when I heard voices, low murmurs blending with the sound of rainfall like conversations being held underwater. The front door was unlocked, and I don't know why, but I stepped inside. The air was cool, damp, smelling like old stone, and every surface glistened as if it had just been rained on, even though there was no ceiling leak. The sound of rain echoed softly from every room at once, and as I moved deeper into the house, the sound grew quieter, not fading but focusing, drawing me toward a single room at the end of the hallway. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to, because the rain stopped entirely the moment I reached it, replaced by silence so complete it felt heavy, like pressure against my ears, and in that silence I understood something without being told, that the rain wasn't weather, it was memory. It was every sound that had ever been listened to, too closely. Every quiet moment where someone felt alone enough to notice it. And when the rain started again, behind me, I ran out of that house and never looked back. But even now, years later, whenever it rains and the world gets quiet enough, I can hear it beneath the sound of water, a low, patient listening, waiting for someone else to notice it too. If you're hearing rain right now, if it feels closer than it should, if it seems to pause when you listen too carefully, don't open the window. Don't step outside and don't assume it's just weather. Some sounds don't come from the sky. They come from the spaces between things. And once they know you're listening, they never stop listening back.